Welcome to this episode of the Business of Practice podcast, where we focus on the physical, financial, and human sides of equine veterinary medicine. In this episode, we're talking about marketing your practice with Dr. Mike Pownall. I'm your host, Kim Brown, publisher of Equine Management. The Business of Practice podcast is brought to you by Dechra Veterinary Products. Mike Pownall, DVM MBA, is a Canadian-based veterinarian and a partner in Oculus Insights. That company is focused on helping veterinarians and other members of the animal health care industry improve their businesses. Thank you, Dr. Pownall, for joining us today to talk about marketing your practice.
Oh, thanks for having me. I love this subject, so we could talk forever. So if I start jabbering on too much, just rudely interrupt me. I'm fine.
Oh, I know. We could have books on this. So
yeah.
Let's start with something simple. A lot of veterinarians know they need to do something to market their practice, but they're not sure what it is, and they're not sure if they're doing something, if it's even worth it. Mm-hmm. So what is your advice to veterinarians who think they need to get into marketing? What's your advice?
Well, I think the first thing is be careful of hype. There are new social media sites constantly, and you'll hear all this buzz. A more recent one is Clubhouse, which is sort of audio recording, and it was the biggest thing, and it was going to take over social media, and it's a flash in the pan. Or we're going to be on Facebook and reach our audience. Well, the reality is Facebook or Instagram for that matter, it's an advertising platform. And if you have 1,000 people that like your page, on average, no matter what you're putting out there, only about 10% are going to see what you're putting out there unless you pay money. And that's how Facebook makes money. And so unless you want to boost your post to get close to those 1,000 people, you're only going to get that 100 or 10%. So there's a lot of effort that goes into marketing. And so effort, it's time that you could be doing other things that are of value. It's expensive because you're having to pay somebody to do it. So one of the things I say right off the bat is make sure what you're doing is worth it, because there's other things that you could be doing. I think the biggest area, and this is not veterinarians, this is any business, is we don't pay attention to what our clients value or the different types of clients. So, for example, in our practice, we run the gamut from backyard horses to high-level show horses to quite a substantial race population. They're all different. So the person that owns your dressage horse is going to be completely different than the standardbred or thoroughbred trainer. I mean, they have a horse in common, but we're talking Martians and cowboys. They're different people altogether. And so going there and thinking, well, if I put out a Facebook post, it's going to appeal to everybody. It won't. I mean, not likely. I mean, there are some commonalities. If there's an infectious disease in your area, great way of getting it out. It impacts everybody. But if you're talking about, healthcare or some interesting new modality, let's make sure the audience values it. We did in the fall of 2020, we did a big research project, and it wasn't big. We, had somebody with us in our practice, and we basically interviewed a wide gamut of our clients. And so we had the same set questions, and we're trying to understand, their business. So we talked to trainers, we talked to individual horse owners, and we talked to lesson barn owners. All three of them have different needs. And so we're quite robust in our social media, our digital activities. And we found out by interviewing these people that our trainers, the people that have influence on a lot of people in the barn, they don't actually pay attention to anything we do on social media. We were like scratching our heads, why? And it basically is they're too darn busy.
Yeah.
Or they're living in the country and they have country internet and they don't have the bandwidth to download videos or really data-rich educational opportunities. And so we're like, oh, okay, so let's change our angle. Meanwhile, people that are who are working, who horses are a hobby, they're all over our stuff, and we can look at some of the metrics on Facebook and find out that most of the time people are looking at our stuff during work hours. They're bored at work, and so let's go on Facebook and let's go explore. So, I mean, I think really understanding your clients, and it could be as easy as just put together a list of 10 questions, try to understand them, try to understand, where they get their information, what, are they on Facebook, are they on YouTube? It used to be that I would go once a year and I would select about 20 clients, and every year it'd be different. And I would just sit with them for an hour. I'd bring, a gift certificate from one of the coffee chains, Tim Hortons, which is ubiquitous in Canada. And, I wanted to show appreciation for their time. And I'd just sit there and I'd ask these questions and I'd write down the answers. And it gave me such great insights into what they want, what they value. Are there other services that they wish we had? This last survey, I mean, we have 14 vets in our practice. I think at least half of them are certified in either acupuncture or veterinary spinal manipulation. And we had clients who, they're like, well, are there other services we can offer? And they're like, oh yeah, it would be great if you guys offered, acupuncture or chiropractic. So, I mean, so again, it tells you, are the things that you're doing working? Obviously not to that segment. You could talk to, a pleasure horse rider, and they could probably list everything. They know probably the biographies of every one of the veterinarians because they have the time and the interest. Busy trainers, they don't have the time, or, they have the interest, but they don't necessarily have the time. So this was fascinating because, for example, in our neck of the woods, our race clientele is on Twitter a lot. They really use Twitter to communicate. That's the only population we have. And so if I'm going to be on Twitter trying to reach dressage riders or hunter jumper riders in our neck of the woods, it'd be a waste of effort. But it's a great place to reach our racehorse trainers. If I want to, we have found in the horse show world that Instagram is far better than Facebook to reach people. And so I think this comes right back down to, what we said at the very beginning, is understanding your clientele and basically what they're interested in and how do they consume that? How do they search for it?
Well, I like the fact that you have said that you offered several different ways to get this information from clients. Come up with the basic questions that you're going to ask them all, and either have someone from the practice or you yourself, the veterinarian, can do it. You can also do it, I'm sure, with some sort of electronic survey, but I like 100%. The face-to-face option.
Yep. It's those one-on-one conversations. So for a great example, about 5 years ago, I was meeting with a barn owner, and they have a big lesson barn. And, one of the things we talked about is they're like, I wish we could do the teeth on our school horses every year. I can't afford it. When you're wanting to do teeth, the cash flow is not there. We'd like to be able to do teeth in the winter before we get busy with other things. So they were saying we want to be able to do all the vaccines that's necessary, do the teeth. We want to do all this stuff, but it's a business. And so, in March, before the season really ramps up, we're tapped out. We can't do it. And so I said, well, why don't we put you on a payment plan? We know what, so let's add up for every horse. You've got 30 school horses, and we're going to do a dentistry, let's say a routine dentistry with sedation and vaccines. And let's divide that over 6 months or even 12 months. And they're like, sold, like, let's do that. Because that allowed them to give the health care they wanted to their horses, because they know these horses are what gives them money, so they need to be healthy. But it was me understanding that the desire was there. Yeah. We needed to find a mechanism to get that to them. And so it was, a 30-minute conversation that has benefited us immeasurably, because we were able to introduce us to other trainers who are like, oh, that's a great idea. Let's do that. And so every year since, we've been able to, really look at our preventative healthcare programs and they grow every year because we're listening to what the audience wants. We're veterinarians, we're diagnosticians, we ask a lot of questions. And so talking to your customers is no different about their business and their needs is really no difference about asking about when did old Smokey start limping?
That's a very good point. So when you have done the research, you figured out, I love the fact that you even got deep enough to figure out that your racetrack trainers were on Twitter and your show horse folks and your other people were not on much, but then the private individuals, they were maybe more on Instagram. Of course, that's very visual, so that's logical. But that goes back to what you have said before, is you've got to figure out where, if you're going to do the social media, find out where your clients are so you aren't wasting your time. Dechra Veterinary Products is proud to sponsor Equimanagement's The Business of Practice podcast. Dechra's equine product line includes Osphos, clonidinate injection, Orthokine Vet IRAP 10 and 60, Osteokine PRP, Equidone Gel, Domperidone, the Vetivex line of parenteral fluids, Vicox EQ joint supplement, and a comprehensive line of topical dermatologic products. The recent addition of Zymeta, diaperone injection, further expands Dechra's equine offerings. For more information about Dechra's products, please visit dechra-us.com.
It's hard to reach people now. We're drowning in communication. And there are so many platforms. We can't be everywhere. And then trying to do what you do on Facebook and think, well, I'll just do it on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. These are different platforms. And as you said, Instagram is very visual. So if you're going to do a paragraph or two describing, an outbreak of strangles in the area, for example, that paragraph of text on Instagram won't go anywhere. And it'll be too much text for Twitter. And so you've got to modify it. And so every time you modify something, it's more and more time. So, we can't be everything to everybody. So you've got to have that focus and go, you know what? Our audience are English show horses. This is where they are. We'll reach them on that.
And I love the fact of what you said. There's always the, oh my gosh, everyone else is offering this service, we should offer it too. But until you ask your clients if that's a service they're going to pay you for, you don't really know. So how do you adjust that? I mean, that could go for equipment or having someone certified in, like you said, chiropractic and acupuncture, or saying that you're going to get a standing MRI or CT scan or whatever. I mean, how much research do you do in order to know, to get an accurate feeling for, are your clients going to use this before you invest in it?
Yeah, I think, Jim Collins, who's famous for writing the book, Good to Great, has a great discussion about introducing new services. And instead of going, hey, there's a new equipment, we're going to invest wholeheartedly into it, baby steps, so ask people. But even then, if people haven't experienced it before, they can't really give you an educated assessment of, yes, we would use your standing MRI once, twice a year, but, if by baby steps are, well, we introduce digital radiology, we introduce digital ultrasound, we have a high enough caseload, well, we refer X amount of MRIs in a year. It wouldn't be a leap for us to, if we had our own in-house, that we'd be able to do this many doing it in-house. When I was doing my MBA, the class that actually had the most math was marketing, because it really focused that there's a cost with everything. And you need to know, for the effort that you're putting out there, this is the return, and this is how much it's going to cost you to deliver this service. There's a great metric that we look at, and we always look at how many new clients we get in a year, but then there's a client acquisition cost. And so if you add up how much time and money you spend on Facebook ads and having somebody in your office do your social media or what have you, and you add all that up and divide by the amount of new clients, you may say, well, boy, it's costing us $50 per new client. And you're thinking, that's a lot of money. Well, if on average they're spending $600 a year and you're keeping clients for at least 5 years. 6 times 5, what's that, 3,000? So it's costing you $50 to get $3,000 worth of business. That could be a good trade-off, a really good trade-off.
Right.
So I think marketing is, I get excited about it because it's something that you can actually measure certain things on it. There's the old adage that, 50% of advertising works. The only problem is you don't know which 50%.
Yeah.
It's just like one of the old, set in stone sayings in marketing. We can get a lot better about that because, the one advantages to a lot of our social media platforms is they give you great results. YouTube has great analytics. You can have a video out there and you might be the most excited. You're thinking this is the best video ever. And then you look at the YouTube analysis and it's like everybody turns it off after 10 seconds. And you're like, all right, I got to do a different approach. We're very active on YouTube, and this again, knowing your audience, and we see things like, oh yeah, we have a new PRP unit. Let's promote that, or we have our MRI, or we have Shockwave, and we think everybody is going to get excited because we're excited about it. Well, our most popular videos is how to do a TPR, how to give oral medications, how to give eye medications, the common things. People only really care about PRP when they have a horse that needs PRP.
Right.
But 95% of the horses need to know how to take a temperature or a heart rate because it might be colicking. And so those are the things you focus on.
Yeah, you could probably get 1 million views just on how to take a digital pulse. I've never seen so many horse owners that cannot find the digital.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a great thing about a lot of the social media is they'll give you the numbers and go, that's the subjects that people like. Mm-hmm. So going into the whole research is what you do will give you a good record. Facebook and Instagram will tell you when people look at posts, what day of the week, what time of day. So a little bit of research, you can get all right, this works, that doesn't work. Let's do more of that. Let's do more of what works and less of what doesn't work.
And again, I think that goes into, to the cost of your marketing. But looking at those analytics, and every platform has analytics. Mm-hmm. I mean, that, like you just said, that can point you to, okay, well, we're posting 3 stories about ponies a week, and they're getting twice as many views as the things we're posting about equipment. Mm-hmm. So more ponies.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you just brought up a really good point. And I alluded a little bit to it, but I think you really brought it up, is that as veterinarians, we get really excited about our equipment and what things can do. To our clients, one DR looks like any other DR. We as veterinarians know that we prefer one over the other. And so when I see web pages of veterinarians, then they list in granular detail what their ultrasounds and their different probes are. And the audience is like, I don't care. I want to know who am I talking to? Our most popular page on our website is the About Us.
And see, that is my last point I really wanted to bring up is marketing is not just about social media. Your practice's website is your greatest marketing.
100%. I mean, when, you hear about somebody, if I'm hearing about, just like if I'm looking for a physiotherapist for myself, I'm Googling them right away. If they've got a website, I'm going to the website. I want to know who they are. I want to see a picture of them. I don't want to see a picture of them in scrubs, masked up, operating. I want to see a picture. I want to know about them because I want to know if they sort of share my same philosophy of approach to medicine. Same way with veterinary medicine. And so, your website, it's, the biggest emphasis on your website is about you. Your equipment, put it there if you're happy about it, but really nobody's going to care about it.
I see so many vet practices are so proud of their clinic, and so the opening photo is of a static building with no people or horses.
Yeah.
And it's like, and people like to see people.
I remember I was at a conference overseas in Europe about 10 years ago, and one of the other speakers came to me and she said, I was really interested in meeting you. I love your webpage. It's the first webpage I see where so many people are there smiling. And she didn't care about that. We had a standing MRI. She didn't care about all our equipment. We had smiling people. She's like, that's the kind of place that's the kind of vets I want for my horse.
Yeah, the clients are smiling, the people who work at the practice are smiling.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's, again, I really want to emphasize that to our listeners is Facebook is not your website. If the only thing that you have is a Facebook business page, you're losing customers.
Yep. And with the new changes that are happening with the Apple infrastructure, they are asking people if they want to be tracked. That's going to, if you've been depending on Facebook to reach your clients, that's going to impact you hugely, because you're not going to Facebook won't be able to track them and give the information back to you. Honestly, we're talking about a web page, and I agree the web page has to be the centerpiece of your marketing. Email newsletters is probably the biggest bang for your buck. We can put out a newsletter and says our dental promotion starts in a week. The phones start ringing the next day. You already have a client. You have the people that are already your clients. They believe in you. They want more information. They're a captive audience. And so if you can start accumulating an email list and sending out, let's say quarterly at least, newsletter that sort of gives them some information, highlights promotion, is educational, you're going to get the biggest bang on the buck for that, for sure.
Yeah, and develop that list legally. Don't go out and buy a list.
No.
Get someone else's list. I mean, we have to mention this.
Yeah.
Just ask your clients. I mean, it would be, if you want to spend some money instead of buying a Facebook ad, you could go pay one of your front desk people when they're not on a phone call or filling out forms to call people and get their email addresses. Make
100%.
sure all your forms have email address spots.
100%. Yep.
So, and another tip, I just worked on an article for EquiManagement on, how important your website is. So, we want to, make sure people are using their website, have your contact information, what you do, where you are. So anything else you would like to add, Dr. Pownall?
Yeah, I would say when you're doing your website, make sure that Google Analytics is enabled on your website. So basically what Google Analytics does, it's kind of creepy, but it tracks everything. It can tell you what time of day they're on the website, which is their first page, how long they spend on each page, but it also tells you, are they on a cell phone, are they on a tablet, are they on a computer? You gain a lot of information about your clients and their viewing habits. And so, for example, it was about, I guess, 5 or 6 years, give or take a couple of years on either side, where all of a sudden web consumption became more mobile than on a desktop or a laptop. And that changed how we present our information. And so those are the kind of things. It doesn't take a lot of work. You can get a monthly little dashboard from it. And it helps you understand that, again, this works. Number A works, B doesn't work. Let's do more of A, forget about B.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Pownall, for joining us today. And thank our audience for joining us for the Business of Practice podcast. And a big thanks to our sponsor, Dechra Veterinary Products. Make sure you visit equimanagement.com or your favorite podcast network to hear every episode of the Business of Practice. And if you have any questions or suggestions, just email me at kbrown@equinenetwork.com. The Business of Practice podcast is a production of the Equine Podcast Network, an entity of the Equine Network, LLC.